Hi, I'm Michael Rosenblatt, and I'm Merck's Chief Medical Officer, and I'm very honored to participate in this conference. This slide is my financial disclosure, and it's my only slide. Slide off, please. So I've been asked to represent industry on this panel, and I think I'm actually the first industry speaker today. So I'm going to draw on discussions from the Chief Medical Officer's Roundtable. The Roundtable is a group of CMOs of the global pharmaceutical and biotechnology sectors, and our CMO job descriptions include being the voice of the patient inside our companies. Personally, I'm very pleased to be on this panel because I've held leadership positions in both sectors. I served as the Dean of Tufts University School of Medicine just prior to becoming Merck's CMO. So I'm going to try to do some compare and contrast as I go along during this talk. So I've been asked to comment on the culture of industry, and I'll begin by saying industry's culture is based on inventing new medicines and vaccines to improve health. We want them to be safe and effective. We want to share information to benefit patients, and we want to learn from others. For years now, actually, we've been operating in a culture in which the sharing of clinical trials data in some form is current practice. Planning around this topic occurs at all levels in companies, from clinical researchers to top leadership to the board of directors. This is in contrast to the relative lack of attention given this topic in academia by department chairs, deans, and boards of trustees. And the amount of actual sharing of clinical trials data by academic researchers is in contrast to the amount shared by industry. If we look at posting of data on clinicaltrials.gov as one window into how these two cultures value the sharing of data, biopsies of clinicaltrials.gov reveal several companies with 100% compliance. However, the industry average is only 40%. Academia has only 10% compliance. Parenthetically, boosting the posting of data on clinicaltrials.gov might actually be a good starting point for sharing important clinical trials data. Industry is interested in all clinical trials data. We are as interested in data from academia as academia is interested in our industry data. Since more than 20% of clinical trials in the United States are sponsored by the NIH, this is an important data source. So let me provide an example. Our company found an unexpected safety issue in one of our clinical trials. A large NIH-sponsored trial testing a similar agent was previously published. When we asked the academic group for data, they declined, stating that they were not yet done generating publications from the data set. I would contend that the case for access to data from publicly funded clinical trials is at least as compelling as access to other trial data. In any case, I don't think that there should be a double standard with regard to access. The CMOs believe the goals of sharing data to benefit patients could be compromised unless data is shared equally. Incomplete access gives rise to incomplete pictures, potentially distorted findings, and blind spots. Another proposition of the IOM consensus study is that sharing data will foster trust. So what should we say to patients who participate in clinical trials, putting themselves at risk in order to advance medicine, if we know that data from academic or government-sponsored trials will not be shared to the same extent or on the same timetable as other trials? The topic of the need for standardization has come up. So another goal of sharing data is to be able to combine data in order to generate more powerful analyses. Academic clinical trials are conducted to produce publishable results. Industry must satisfy the criteria of regulatory agencies globally, and I emphasize the word globally. Regulatory requirements demand the highest level of rigor. Agencies routinely re-examine the data, applying different statistical analyses to the raw data And Dr. Demetz very nicely explained this clearly. So as we heard yesterday from Barbara Beerer, we do not now have an apples-to-apples basis for comparison. We recommend that setting standards in order to combine data or perform meta-analyses be undertaken. We will all benefit when high scientific standards are in place. Now I come to one of my most important points. There is no question that industry is deeply concerned about the unintended consequences of generating, even unintentionally, misleading data. Medicines and vaccines that benefit millions of people globally can be compromised or lost forever when erroneous conclusions are disseminated. There's not a lot of opportunity for effective self-correction. And I cannot overemphasize what is at stake for patients. This is not a theoretical risk. There have been real and unfortunate examples of dissemination of misleading data in the last several years, and I do ask you to think about the vaccine situation. So above all, do no harm. And that's why industry feels strongly that hypothesis-driven research conducted responsibly by qualified researchers with pre-specified methods and a commitment to disseminate their findings in peer-reviewed media should be the standard governing secondary use of data. A final point on culture is the declaration of conflict of interest is now best practice in both industry and academia, and it should be part of determining access to data and resulting presentations and publications. With regard to staffing, based on a very informal survey, the numbers currently are about 3 to 5 FTEs to extract and anonymize data and about $2 million in software for handling about 30 to 40 approved requests per year per company. And then there are the costs associated with an external advisory panel. And we anticipate that staffing will need to double as demand increases to about 60 per year. As for financial incentives to sharing, frankly, we only see disincentives financially. That doesn't mean we don't think we should share data. We do. We just realize that we pay a price to share this data. We invest enormous amounts of money in clinical trials. Some outcomes trials cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Then we assume the financial burden of administering data sharing. Currently, any researcher can make a request at no cost to himself or his institution that will incur considerable expense for a company. For the requester, this is like having a zero-deductible, no-copay health plan. It's not sustainable. We'll need to find ways to cover costs or at least charge users fees when academia or industry request data from each other. Of course, the current financial picture is different for academia. Conducting analyses on shared data can lead to publications that, in turn, can lead to grant support. The promotion pathway. At this time, promotions in industry are based on original research contributions and leadership skills. And we know of no formal pathway in industry for promotion based on analyzing data generated by others. I don't know if and when this might change. So, in conclusion, industry and academia are on a journey to share data for the benefit of patients. Industry's chief medical officers see many opportunities to collaborate. We're enthusiastic about this IOM consensus study because it is the only truly inclusive initiative. It collects perspectives from all sectors that generate and use clinical trials data, and it does so across geography. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.